I think it's funny, you look at places, like yours and at like Driveline and these places that are actually like producing like college hitters and pro hitters, and they don't have like the big fancy lights. They don't have the big giant warehouse where it's a million kids in there and they're just trying to funnel bodies.
Right.
It's a really
Yeah,
focused,
exactly.
almost like a Rocky style gym. Like, hey, we're here to work hard and we don't care what it looks like. It's we're gonna, like, for us, like, we reinvest our money in technology, not new turf, or not a place for like newer couches for the parents to sit on. And, it's like
So true, bro.
let's go get new baseballs. So, but all right, awesome. So,
Totally agree.
how do you tell me a little bit about how you guys use Blast? Because and maybe this is just a lack of something I don't know enough about. That you guys are measuring, through there. So I definitely want to learn more about what the bat sensors do. I got a bad taste with the Zep, many years ago, and haven't really gone back
Yeah.
to the bat sensors. But I love that. I love the concept of being able to put the numbers on a video like you guys do. And what really struck me too was in your facility, I noticed that you have it like up on a TV. So I'm assuming that's an HDMI cable that is linked to your iPad. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, so I guess would it be beneficial for like a facility that has hit tracks or like the Rapsodo hitting machine, or anything of that nature that measures what happens post contact? Even I guess with a radar, like if you just take a radar gun, I'm sure you guys do have either with the pocket radar guns or the stalker radar guns, or whatever, to measure exit speed.
Hmm.
How does it correlate? What numbers are you looking for with the blast motion sensor at various age groups? And then how quick is you mentioned when we were talking over Instagram, that it's very easy to use. So how quickly can you use it, and then what are you guys measuring?
So yeah, that's exactly why we picked Blast. I mean, it's head and shoulders above the rest of the guys. I've used Diamond Kinetics and Zap, and like you said, it's very easy to use. I mean, I can switch from one hitter to the next. If I have back-to-back lessons, I can go from one guy to the next instantly without having to recalibrate or, do any type of setup. So for me, as a facility owner, I need to kind of keep everyone going, and that's why we've switched to that. And we definitely found, like you, that the Zep was not accurate and it wasn't producing anything that was going to help us with our hitters. All the numbers were very inflated, and now with the Blast, where they've got it down to a better science, and they're getting us some good numbers. We base our lessons around the attack angle, and basically once we get to the high school level, we're really talking bat speed a little more. For the younger kids, it's more about tracking bat speed and improving the numbers as we go, because every kid's going to grow differently. But in high school, it's more about, if we can get a guy to about 70 miles an hour, we're doing a pretty good job with his swing speed. We're looking, that's kind of a benchmark for where most of the top high school kids. I mean, obviously they're higher than that, somewhere in the low 80s, but the majority of high school kids that are not in the top are in the 55 to 65 range. And when we see guys like that, I mean, even if the guy's smaller and doesn't have the huge body, we can definitely work with the movements and the sequences of the swing and get up to that mark, which is optimal for, if we're talking launch angle and we're talking, we're trying to hit the ball at a certain distance. I mean, we've got to be able to have a certain swing speed to do that. So it's a very good instant feedback. I mean, like we do not use hit tracks. So we base a lot of the blast numbers, the launch angle that we see in the cage is basically how we verify if that was a good hit. But, the hit tracks gives you the outcome, and I feel like blast gives you the feel of what you did instantly. So, for instance, if, I got guys coming in swinging down, and chopping on balls, and we're working on changing our intent and kind of getting our mentality to hit the ball more in the air. The blast sensor instantly gives those guys the feedback of what angles their swing's coming on. It will also gauge body rotation and kind of how you're using your body to kind of swing, and it also has numbers for bat plane and stuff, which are helpful kind of for just letting the kid know, all right, did you give yourself a chance to have a little adjustability there? If your barrel's in the zone for a certain amount of time, I mean, obviously you can have some adjustability. So that's where we feel like the blast helps us the most is in the instant feedback and how it translates to feel also. And so for when you got a guy taking live swings and he's connected to the blast, that's definitely one of the ways that we kind of gauge how the in-game swing is going to feel. So if these guys are seeing a 75, 80 mile an hour machine from a close distance, and their reaction on a ball that's in on their hands is a certain way, well, the blast is going to tell them that. And that's the difference between, I love the hit tracks, we haven't installed one yet, and I think we're probably going to get a Raps Moto eventually. But the blast for me is essential for my hitters, because it's so much easier for me to tell someone, look at your number. Like I can tell someone you swung down there, or I could tell someone you had no intent there. But when they see that their swing speed went down 10 miles an hour on a ball down and away, and their number went down to negative 10 degrees, because they just released their hands out, that's kind of what we base a lot of what we do. So that's kind of, the blast is definitely one of our biggest tools there. I would say it's not the only thing we use. We don't use it for every session, but definitely for tracking guys, especially because they have this thing called the Blast Connect, where you can have certain players' profile, tracking all the numbers just like you do with the hit tracks. You track their swing speed and their attack angles, as well as you can do that with the hit tracks, where you can keep their exit velocities and stuff like that in their profile. So is that how you guys use the hit tracks? Kind of the same thing, just keeping profiles for guys?
Yeah. So with hit tracks, they have they've got training sessions and different different tools that you can actually set up. But every player gets his own profile, and then it stores, and it can actually link up online. So players can actually go online and see all their numbers as well. Go back through their sessions.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to look back at, there's a mode where you can go into their session review and pick out like the entire session of every hit and every swing on camera, from the last 90 days essentially. And then you can archive things too. So if you want to save a particular session, you can save that, or you can save the videos. And I agree with you. I love the concept of creating feel. If when a ball gets hit, when a guy sets a new personal record of exit velo or distance or anything, we can go back to the video and we can say, hey, like, look at what you did here. Like, did you feel that, or what did that feel like? Let's try to recreate it, from a video perspective. And the cool thing about hit tracks is it'll re-show you the result too. So it saves the video of the result. It saves the video of your swing, and then the metrics that go along with it, the distance, the launch angle, and the exit velocity. And then there's different, metrics that it saves for you. Your hard hit average, your average launch angle charts, basically. When you hit the ball at this launch angle, you have this slugging percentage versus this batting average versus this hard hit average. So trying to get your hard hits at your best launch angle, at your most ideal launch angle, is kind of like, what we're concerned about with those charts. And there's so much that goes into it. But yeah, I guess going back to the blast, how does it measure bat speed? You mentioned that there's different metrics to how much you're using your body. Is that based on mechanics that you can see in the video, and then you can say, hey, look, your bat speed's slower? Or what are the measurements, and what part of the bat is it measuring? Is it measuring how the angular velocity of how it's turning based on the sensor moving through space, or how does it measure that?
So what it picks up. So what's cool about the blast is it picks up if you have it in video mode, it'll chop up every single swing and give you an individual video for each swing with the metrics attached, just like the hit tracks. And so basically it picks up, so for instance, for my guys, if I'm getting the barrel to kind of work rearward first, that's the first movement. It's not going to pick up bat speed during separation, gather, or any phase like that. It's going to pick it up at land and when it starts to work either rearward or whatever. So you can see in my videos that it starts to pick it up there. So it's like you said, it's picking up the beginning of the swing and the turn. So it's going to show you, and it's not, you can't like slow it down on Diamond Kinetic. You can slow it down on Diamond Kinetics a little more and see each individual miles per hour, but this one kind of just gives you an idea of how you accelerate early or don't. So if that answers your question, I mean, that's all it really picks up. It's going to pick up all the way from the beginning to the end. It's not going to go through gather phase. That's what I had an issue with the ZEP with, is I think that, you know, the numbers on ZEP would be 10, 15 miles an hour more than what I see on guys now, because it would pick up all this movement that you did early and kind of translate it into a, you know, a lot of guys, I had pro guys that came in that got 100 miles an hour bat speed on the ZEP before, and I was like, that was driving me crazy. I'm like, that's impossible. But yeah, that's, the accuracy of it is it's still going to be a little off, you know, but the general idea of what you get for most guys, from what I see too, is the main thing that it really helps with is guys that take really inconsistent swings. Like some guys can take a fast swing here and there. It really lets guys know the inconsistency of their bat speed. So say it's 2 or 3 miles an hour off, it's still going to tell you that one swing you swung 70 miles an hour and the other swing you swung 61, and there's a big discrepancy in between the two. So that's how we kind of relate intent to the swing, as opposed to kind of, you guys do it a little differently, where you see the outcome in the video and you're like, all right, the outcome was really good on that one. So we kind of see the pre-swing stuff, and then we check the outcome on the video, check the launch angle, and so we kind of go through the opposite process a little bit. But I would love to have, because the hit tracks is connected to Diamond Kinetics, it's just very hard to kind of, for me, I'd have to give some time in between lessons for me to hook up the hit tracks, for me to hook up the Diamond Kinetics, you know, and I'm giving lessons back to back and doing it for, you know, I'm open from like 2 to 9, so I try to do lessons all day, and so that's where it comes into play. It's just how I can give my hitters the most information in the amount of time that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's what we're all trying to figure out, how to provide as much value either in lessons or group settings, or just some more information and more feedback so these guys can learn to coach themselves. And I think too, like, hit tracks doesn't take any time to set up in between lessons. It takes a while it's like probably about a 45 minute to an hour process to set up, but once it's in there, then it's literally just like a click of a button. You press a person's name and you shoot up there. But we don't use the Diamond Kinetics aspect, and I've never used Diamond Kinetics, so I don't know how that's set up or how it even correlates with hit tracks. I know I don't think hit tracks, don't quote me on this, but I don't think hit tracks is going to continue to support Diamond Kinetics or does anymore. I think the new software update, I don't think we'll even have it on there.
Got it.
But yeah, don't quote me on that through there. So anyways, but with the sensors, that's awesome. I mean, that's I I think that would be really beneficial for us to be able to throw a screen up like you guys have and put it next to the outcome, and then to be able to, like, from just measuring intent from a feel standpoint, okay, I hit that ball, 70 miles an hour, and I hit the barrel, and my bat speed was actually slower too. So now it's a matter of, man, I've got way more in the tank, or for you get
Exactly.
you get more, you get these high school and college guys who are hitting the ball 95, 96, 97, and same type of deal. They can hit a ball really far at 86 at 35 degrees, and it can be a great ball, especially if it finds the gap. But if there's more in the tank because their swing speed was down, that's awesome. That sounds beneficial. And it's only what, like $150?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that it's definitely. I mean, I'd say that's the easiest way for us to gauge intent too. A lot of hitters come in and they'll tell me, "Oh, I'm hitting a lot of ground balls, especially on this pitch." And you can show them, well, I mean, look how much your swing slows down, and look how much, of your attack angle you're losing. Even though you're good on this pitch and you can hit a line drive on this pitch, look what you do on this pitch. So I'd say that the feedback is priceless, because I can tell guys this, but I can't provide feel, and that's why we do drills as coaches. Everyone always, makes fun of our drills and stuff, and that's all. I can care less. It's all about me providing the feel for my hitter, and instant feel is definitely something that's hard to come, especially on live pitching, So, and when you look at the video, it's hard to remember what your intent was on a certain swing. So you can kind of go back and look at the numbers and see, okay, well, I barreled this ball up, but I definitely had a lower trajectory and a lower swing speed, and it had to do with something as far as intent, and so that's where my hitters can really benefit from it, I think, for sure.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. Everybody's different, and getting kind of creative and kind of attacking the neuroscience of each individual player. We were talking earlier about trying to do the most cost-effective, most valuable thing in the amount of time that's slotted. Of course, as coaches, we would all love to do more. That's why we do it, is we're obsessed with this stuff, and trying to figure out what's going to work. And I think, you guys had a post up that I don't know if Instagram wouldn't let me read the comments or whatever, but it showed. I think I sent you a message on it. I was kind of joking. I said, "Man, I was ready to read the popcorn, grab some popcorn, and read these comments." And it's not just your page. It's Backspin Tee. It's all these coaches using the PVC pipes, and why PVC pipes become so popular. Well, they're an extremely easy, lightweight, cost-effective tool that you can literally mold and connect any way that you want. You don't have to go out on Amazon and find a product. You can literally build your own thing that makes sense to you and that you want to connect to your hitters. And the way that you see the swing in terms of rearward turn and some of the other verbiage, a coach can use something totally different and be trying to accomplish the same thing, but how he sees it in his mind and how he translates it has to do with, okay, well, is the player a visual learner, auditory learner, kinesthetic learner, things of that nature. So I think it's funny when people bash drills. They don't even understand why they're doing them. It's like
Exactly.
So
that's I think why they bash them, is because they don't understand the why, and so it just looks funny to them. It looks it looks foreign, and so it's something that they never do because they don't understand it. So, and that's partially why it doesn't bother me, because I feel like you said, we have to be innovators if you want to stay in this game, man. You can't just do what you've always done. You got to continue to stay above the rest of the people that are constantly learning and find new ways to make things interesting for the hitter. I feel like, because how many guys have you worked with that have done a ton of drills before? You know what I mean? So it's like, we've got to find ways as coaches, especially for the hitters that come in that are extra advanced and that understand the swing. We've got to find ways to help them understand it even more and get that deep understanding, which is, but where most high school kids they get into trouble with their programs and their coaches. They just don't understand their swing going into high school, and they have no idea what they do. And so the coach just kind of tells them what to do, and then I feel like the culture is, if the culture changed, it needs to be in kids understanding what the swing is a little bit. And that's definitely where, if we got young kids understanding the swing, and that's why these drills are so important. If I could get a young kid to understand his swing at a young age and understand the swing that he needs to take to maximize his power, by the time he gets to high school, and coach tries to tell him what to do, and he's going to understand what the coach is telling him to do, and if that's proper or if it's not, and he'll be able to have a conversation with his coach on kind of how to implement what's most needed. Instead of, like, I have a lot of 8th and 9th graders come to me and they have absolutely no clue what they do in their swing. So they just hit the ball. They go up there and hit the ball. So there's no adjustability, there's no sense of timing, there's no efficiency, and that's I think where the problem is these days is most kids and players that are coming up have issues because they just don't understand what's going on. That's why I do the Instagram accounts and the Twitter accounts, is so I can help these young kids that follow my account like kind of get it a little bit earlier. Wouldn't it be nice to kind of know some of this stuff before you go into high school, You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be nice for us as coaches for some of these guys to be a little bit more advanced when they get there too.
Yeah, sure.
And I think, we try to add as much individual value in our lessons as possible, but, we end up, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, you end up saying very similar things in like the very beginning of each person's like journey with you. Like the very first lesson, right, a lot of times is very similar because you're starting the process, and there's got to be a way to get to that more individual aspect as quickly as possible because everybody's different. They've got different mobility and different strength and different even proportions. You talking about measuring from the shoulders to the hip and from the hip to the heel. It's that spine angle and that attack angle and everything that goes along with it is in theory going to be slightly different, and finding that perfect happy medium. And if you're going to go as deep, so to speak, into it, you could get a crazy deep. But most people don't get to that level because, like you said, they don't understand the beginning aspects of it. And so it takes a while to do that. Let me ask you this, and this is a question that I've asked high school coaches, I've asked college coaches, I've asked other facility owners, I've asked parents and players. You made a good point. You're talking about, when they get to high school, their coach just kind of tells them what to do, and there's a lot of coaches that line guys up in a tee, and this isn't every coach, and so I don't want to generalize high school coaches, and there's a lot of great high school coaches out there, and college coaches and whatnot, but they get guys on a tee, and it's the whole team, and okay, we're going to do this drill, and this is how I want you to swing, and if you do this, good things will happen, but if you do this, then you're always going to do this, or if you swing this way, you're going to pop out too much, or you're going to hit a lot of pop-ups to shortstop, or you're going to hit a lot of ground outs or top spin or whatever it is that they don't like in any strategy. So how is a facility owner doing it for 9 years, working with guys that are going to play college baseball, working with pro hitters, like guys that are way above what these other guys are saying? What's your advice to players who obviously want to be respectful, because these coaches are saying it because they think it's going to help them? It's not just like, okay, if they didn't think it was going to help, they would just keep their mouth shut. At least I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say if they're trying to help all their players. So what's your advice to these players who are going in there that are maybe worried about playing time, threatened by playing time? And this is before the season even starts. This is like they're a freshman or sophomore, looking at trying to make varsity, maybe even a junior who's looking to, for that's his only option. If he doesn't make varsity, he's done. From that aspect, and it's January and winter workouts are starting, and coaches are kind of getting their ear a little bit. How do you handle, or what's your advice for players on that?
Well, that's a great question, because I've dealt with that at all levels pretty much. I mean, coached anywhere from the young travel ball age all the way up to the pro guys. And I'd say the biggest thing, starting with the high school guys, is you can't take away the player's identity, and that's one of the things I really remind my guys of is, you're at this level for a reason, and your identity is what's going to contribute to the program. And so if someone tries to completely change your identity, that's like changing your personality. It's not going to happen, so that's the first thing I start with, because I've dealt with that at all levels, especially the high school guys. And what ends up happening is, for most guys, like I was saying, is most guys don't understand their swing enough, and so when a coach tells them something to do, it could be completely unlogical, and it could not make sense, and the player's all about it. He's just going to do what the coach is saying. So I feel like that's where I want to come in as a coach, is just get the player to understand the logic behind the swing, why coaches say certain things, and give the player confidence to be able to kind of talk to the coach a little bit. And, for me, when I was in high school, I was not the most talkative, but I felt like I could talk to my coach just a little bit. And I've never heard a coach, not want to engage with a player before. So I definitely feel like those are the two things that the main thing is talking to the coach, because what you're talking about, and don't be afraid to kind of express your opinion on your own swing, because that's your identity. And if you believe that this swing is what works for you, then that's what works for you. And the coach, some coaches are spiteful, and they can, obviously you need to be respectful. So you don't want to not do what the coach is saying. You want to be respectful and have conversation and try things, be open to testing new things out, but only if they're logical to you, only if they make sense. And, I've had guys that have worried about playing time, like you said. They're worried about starting, and that fear is just a result of them not knowing what the coach is thinking about them, not knowing how the coach feels about how they contribute to the team. So the biggest thing with me is the unknown, is where kids and college guys get into trouble. Like, I'm working with this D1 guy right now, and all the sessions that we do are private. He doesn't want any of his coaches to see. One of the coaches walked in one time, and he was like, "Oh, I gotta go, bro. I'll talk to you later." And with guys with my D1 guys in college, a lot of those guys just need to kind of seek outside knowledge on their own and contribute to the team the way the coach wants them to contribute. But when a player's getting results, then what's the coach going to say? So I give my guys confidence to talk to the coach, to because they understand their swing and they understand what they're trying to contribute to the team and their identity, and hopefully through that, they can kind of work with the coach appropriately. But I mean, from my experience, it all tends to work itself out, because the player is worried about the playing time. It doesn't necessarily mean he's not going to get the playing time. It just means that he's concerned about what the coach thinks, which is something that most players, like for my college guys, they're not really concerned what the coach thinks. Like, they know they're going to get playing time if they produce. So school guys, freshmen, sophomores, like you're saying, they're just coming into high school. They're worried about what the coach thinks. They're worried about making that impression and trying to get playing time. When it's more about performing and just letting the performing set the table and kind of give you, set the path for you. So beyond that, man, I feel like it's just kind of the kid's attitude and how he brings that attitude to the table every day. Like, I want to play. I want to, what do I need to do to get better? This is what I feel like I need to do in my swing. So those are the biggest things I tend to concentrate on.
That's awesome. That's great perspective. Communication has been something that's come up as an answer, to that question a lot, and I think that was a great perspective, talking about how a player can contribute, and I think that'd just be a great question to ask a coach. Hey, mechanics aside, what role do you want me to play, for this team? How can I help the team win outside of hitting mechanics? Where do you see me even hitting in the lineup? Depending on that aspect, like, what can I work on? If I'm a 4-hitter, I have a little bit different approach than I do as a 7-hitter or a leadoff hitter or whatever it is. And that might just be a good bridge for guys to kind of try to cross without getting into mechanics talks, because at the end of the day, you're right, it's about results. So
yeah, exactly. Because if the hitter's producing, and it's not necessarily exactly what the coach wants to see. Well, if he's performing the job and he's doing, he's a great team player, he's got a good attitude, he brings that intensity to the field every day. I mean, what's the coach really going to say? So there's a fine line, because you definitely want to be respectful, and every coach is going to coach, and it's just in their nature. If the coach wasn't saying anything, it's probably not the line of work he should be.
Right. So,
like you said, coaches are going to coach.
Awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate your time, and I would love to stay in touch, and definitely going to connect more on Instagram. I love watching your stuff.